meeting sayers.
We're all here and it's 6 o'clock. Craig, are you ready? Okay, I'm turning the recorder on. This is November 1st, 2022. This is a Bluff Town Council regular meeting. It is 6 o'clock. Roll call.
Linda Sosa.
Jim Sayers.
Joanne Hook.
Brant Murray.
Ann Lechman.
Erin Nelson serving as town manager.
The first thing on the agenda is the approval of the Bluff Town Council regular meeting minutes of October 19th, but I believe that is October 18th is what it should be.
It is October 18th. It should be, yes.
Everybody's received those minutes that were labeled the 18th. I just mistyped it in the agenda item.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Any discussion, changes, points of reference?
Make a motion to approve as presented, Mayor.
Second.
Any discussion? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Abstain.
opposed? You abstain?
Yeah. I wasn't here. Or I wasn't there.
Are you with us now?
I know where I was.
All right, so the minutes are approved. Before we get to public comment, I want to advise everyone that based on advice of council number 12, discussion and vote on Jim Hook's request to extend 6 West is temporarily tabled. I talked with our attorney this afternoon, midday, and it was his advice to table it until he had an opportunity to talk with us. So I am going to, unless there's an objection, I'm going to take that off the agenda. I just want to be really clear, this does not prevent anybody who wants to make a public comment during the next section from making a public comment. It's simply that the council is not going to discuss it at this moment. So if there are no objections, I'm going to move to public comment. There will be a 3-minute time limit for each person wishing to comment. If you exceed the 3-minute limit without permission, the meeting controller will mute you. So are there public comments? Oh, wait a minute. Be sure that people aren't trying to unmute or raise their hand. If somebody jumps on in the next couple of minutes, I'd give them that leeway. Otherwise, let's just go ahead and move to the first agenda item. Item number 1, which is the introduction of AmeriCorps Gold 5 team and an outline of the schedule. I haven't talked with Father Joe, but my understanding is Gold 5 was to arrive today between 2 and 3 o'clock. And they previously sent out a team resume that shows that there are, I think there are 9 of them. Yes, 9 team members and then a team leader. And I sent that resume off to you, but very briefly, again, they come from all over the country. And we have someone from Pocatello, Summit, New Jersey, Leesburg, Virginia, Pittsburgh, Baraboo, Wisconsin, George West, Texas, the Bronx, Simsbury, Connecticut, and Swampscott, Massachusetts. So tomorrow, assuming they got here as planned, the agenda will be go out to the mission and have breakfast at 9 o'clock, which we've kind of assembled. Thank you to Aaron. And then do some introductions, do an orientation. Joe is doing the orientation to the mission and the rules right now, getting them oriented out there. And then we'll talk a little bit about the town and kind of the layout. At some point, we'll go up to Blanding. And I'd like to go to Edge of the Cedars like we did last year. I didn't hear anything back from Edge of the Cedars, so I'm assuming we can just go and they can take a look around and see what it's like. We'll show them the highlights, Clark's, the laundromat if they need to do laundry while they're doing groceries. Just get them oriented to that. Because this is treated kind of as a lunch and learn, what we'll probably do is go to Subway and get sandwiches and sit outside at Edge of the Cedars and get to know each other a little bit better. When we get back to Bluff, which will probably be between 1 and 2, the mission is going to start them on the garden project. And I'm not quite sure what they're going to be doing, but I think it's doing some cleanup and additional maybe planting or something. But this first week, they will probably work in the garden. The mission is having the pads for the tiny houses poured right now, and then they'll start working on the tiny houses. I sent out a more detailed list to all of us about what the projects were, but on the, I think it's the November 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, we will do the giant cane project with Duncan Uchis, and he won't be there, but Jordan will be there with 2 or 3 other people. Now, supposedly they'll bring the equipment, so we don't need to worry about that. And if Luann is still okay with it, Luann will supervise that part in terms of being there and available for questions from the town side. I think, Lou, you did it last year with the team, the Gold 7 team. And if there are any snags, Lou will be there to help them. During the days that they work for us, we have to have someone be present and following all the rules, like no work on private property, no work on archaeological sites, kind of the usual things that we had to do last year. People are welcome to come out to the mission tomorrow and meet them in the morning. They'll be out there working then starting about 1 or 2, assuming Joe and I are on the same page. Any thoughts, questions?
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, Jordan will be down with that crew, and they've got a couple other people. They're bringing the tools, and they're bringing the spray to spray the stalks when they get done. They've got a chipper, and they can chip it, so we don't need to burn it on site. We can just chip it, and then if people don't want the chippings, they can bag it up and take it. Let's see. That's the Utah Department of Natural Resources, and the reason they can come down and work is because it's such an invasive weed, and if it gets lost on the river bottom, if you've heard of like slickhorn and all the goat heads that have ended up there, picture Arundo taking over those beaches. It will happen. There's some down towards Mexican Hat, and so we need to prevent. We need to do our end of prevention. So she said that they can map what's here in town, what needs to happen. Nobody can be, you don't have to get rid of it. It's just highly encouraged because of the noxious weed portion of it. But one of the things they will do is map where there's I want to call it an infestation, but it's where there's growth of it on, and all of it's on private property in town. There's a couple in the right of ways, but most of it's on private property. But because of its nature of its weed, they can go on and help landowners remove it. And then they've got some suggestions, river privet for one, Arizona cypress, rabbit brush, that sort of thing to plant in its place. But we've got everything in place except we need some to get rid of. So I've talked to a couple of property owners, but if we don't have people signed up, then we need to find an alternative project. And so we need to spread the word. Start tonight. I've just talked to a couple people by phone, but we need to, if you know a neighbor that's got some, let them know we've got a crew in town, and we'll be ready to do it. It's the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And you don't have to be there. You can just point to your stash, and as long as you're willing to part ways with your visual screen and your weeds, then we can help you do it.
That's really a good point about the mapping. And I think what people should do is, if you're interested in having this done, please either reach out to Luann or to Aaron or myself so we can get a list going. There are a couple people who've asked me questions. They can help work around your fence. So if you have a fence going through it, they'll work around that and help. If they have to take it down, they'll put it back up. They'll do just about anything at this point. One reminder, while it is voluntary, there is a state law that controls removal. And it has been said to me in meetings that when people don't want to do it, when the county or the state have crews working, they are able to come in and just do it. So I think all of us want to be cooperative as much as possible. And if you really want it done, just let us know. I think there's plenty of work in town to keep 3 days. If not, Lou and I should probably talk about what other projects would be permissible. One would be cleaning out the culverts. That's one of the other things that we had on our list, but it has to be in our scope of work, and culverts on the town culverts, not the private and not the UDOT ones, but town culverts could also get cleaned out. Anything else?
One other thing about the mapping, Jordan with the natural resources was really encouraged the mapping idea, because as you see things getting done and the 2 test parcels that we did last year, you can mark those. Those have been accomplishments, so that all of that helps with future grants and anything that we might need help on later on. So anyway, so let me know. I've been spotting it around town, but I'll be calling you or call me.
If you need some help with that, Lou, let me know. I can help too.
Yeah, anybody that you know, feel free to give them a call. Just that'd be great.
All right, then the second item is voting at the Bluff Community Center is tomorrow. That's in-person voting. They should have the voting machine there. If you have your paper ballot and you want to deposit it, we have the deposit box in our office, number 1, but they will also have a depository with them. I've asked Lyman Duncan several different ways, and I've never had a complete answer that says, yes, the voting machine will be there. So hopefully it's there and set up. I know they've been calibrated, and that's from, I think, 10 to 2. There won't be a sign up except for the county sign saying that there's voting. Oh, and I think some of the people who were told that they'd have to do provisional ballots may have received ballots this week in the mail. I'm not sure what that was all about, but I know a couple of people who didn't get ballots and were told to do provisional, but their paper one came yesterday. Any questions on that?
Could you repeat the time? Was it 10 to 2 or?
I believe it's 10 to 2. It could be 10 to 3, but I think it's 10 to 2.
Erin's nodding her head 10 to 2, so well.
That's what's on the agenda.
All right, very good. Sorry.
It's also what's on the calendar. I wouldn't go by my agenda and typing abilities, but yeah, it says that on the calendar.
Okay.
But we do have the ballot box from 10 to 3 all weekdays until the 7th, and then it'll be picked up on the 7th. So 10 to 3 just at our, in office number 1.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We still have the ballot box. People have been dropping off ballots, but please don't wait until 2:55 on the 7th, because the pickup will be on the 7th, and Lyman doesn't know if they'll pick it up at 7:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the evening. So please, if you're waiting to vote until the 11th hour here, make sure you get it to us preferably before the 7th, because I know they're picking it up on the 7th. Then number 3, report on the meeting with Congressman John Curtis on October 24th, 2022. And so Linda, Lou, and Aaron, I think you all went to that. Anybody want to report?
I can provide an update if you'd like.
Sure.
So yes, as you mentioned, Linda, Luann, and myself were there. John Curtis and 6 of his staffers came down. Unfortunately, we did not get a town hall this time, although it was posted, that he would be in town. We asked specific questions about like infrastructure and our highways. There was a specific question about, if there's anything that John Curtis, his thoughts on the speed limit down here, and we were advised to continue to work with UDOT, but I think we can maybe push on that a little bit more. We also expressed the need for a fire suppression system in the CCC building, and Curtis is very familiar with the project and has been since its inception. So one of his staffers provided his contact information and said that we could be in touch, and there might be additional funding available. I know there's some additional work being done on that, but the town will reach out to the staff member to see if they have any ideas as to how we can get additional funding for that project. Besides that, I would encourage anyone who has questions. John Curtis's website is very informative and does have a lot of resources, and you can always request a meeting with him directly. So that's all I've got.
Luann, Linda, anything to add?
We talked about the fire suppression and getting moved into that building. He was very familiar with that. He remembers the start of that project. We talked about the trail side by side of the highway to get some people walking out safely to the community. Went through that discussion a little bit, but he's just very open to listening. It comes down, he does have access to things at the legislative level that we may not actually know about. So it was interesting. There's just a few of us and their staff, but he's got a good sense of humor and felt like they listened.
Thank you.
It was good touching bases with him and the staff again. They keep coming here, and that's really helpful. And he knows that we have a different point of view than other parts of the county.
So if there's nothing else on that, we'll move to 4. Linda and I attended the Utah League of Cities and Towns annual conference, which was, I thought, probably one of the more useful conferences I've been to in my professional life. Not only did we have a chance to talk to other people who were elected officials or town managers or staff, there's a huge selection of vendors. And you could have an opportunity to run your problems by them and see if there was anything that they could offer that would help solve them. And one of the things that we did was we talked to the different vendors for the playgrounds, and looking at the playground at the CCC, like what playground vendors are available, how do they price things out, is it more productive to replace or purchase new, and recognizing that they have a vested interest, obviously, and new equipment. They don't go around and repair it, but they have various plans, and at least 2 of the vendors are going to reach out to the playground committee through the council to be able to set up meetings and do some evaluations. I also thought the discussions on First Amendment rights were really important. And one of the things that the league harped on with the attorneys was everybody does it or nobody does it. Everybody gets your ear or nobody gets your ear. Everybody gets on the agenda or nobody gets on the agenda. And I think we do a really good job of giving people opportunities to be heard, but it doesn't hurt to be reminded of the First Amendment issues. And Linda and I split up. There were probably 40 different sessions, and so we split it up, and with the exception of the common ones, we separated and went to different sessions. Linda, did you want to add anything about the ones you went to?
A lot of the sessions this time were rural, which hasn't happened before, but there's a real push for helping the rural parts of the state with grants, with resources, with information. And so I went to several of those that were really helpful. Plus, I went to a couple that had to do with specifics like budgeting, and they had some things that I felt would be helpful for when we do our strategic planning, a way of looking at certain things differently and being really inclusive. So I felt the whole thing was really helpful.
I would definitely encourage our manager to go to the half conference so that she gets a chance to meet some of the town managers. Jeremy Red was there, who used to be with Blanding, and it was really nice to see Jeremy, but it was also extremely nice to have him say if Erin has questions or thoughts that she wants to share, to reach out to him. He'd introduce her to other town managers. And, as you might imagine, with this being the first time they've really focused on rural, there were still, by far, the attendance was Wasatch Front and big communities. So it was nice to be able to connect in these smaller groups with the rural folks. And the concerns are the same. They're just widely different in terms of ability to spend money and the size you're dealing with. Any questions or thoughts, Lou?
We got from the league, there was an announcement that was sent out with a spotlight on one of the topics at the conference. I don't know if you were there when the governor spoke, but he did. What he said was that the governor's office, in conjunction with UDOT, has decided to make continuity from community to community with trails alongside the highway and different routes, not necessarily stuck to the highway, but they both of those entities are committed to doing exactly what we're trying to do here in Bluff. So that was, I thought, huge news that came out at the conference, they said in the stories. And then they sent it out. Salt Lake Tribune had a big story. There were quite a bit of publicity on it after that, but I thought it was great. They said it could take decades, but both sides were committed to making it for health and well-being and for alternate ways to travel, but economic look too for people recreating in the state. They use the example of being able to go from Park City down to St. George and being able to connect on all of the trails. So I thought that was huge. And they did spotlight it in the league newsletter. But.
Yeah, and I think that's how Bike Utah got that big grant to do the 1,000 miles or whatever it is of bike lanes, was with the governor's office.
No, it is, but it's a different project. That Bike Utah was already set up through that 1,000-mile thing, but this is a whole big picture. They're comparing it to the interstate system that was established in the late 50s, and this is an intrastate trail system that will be exclusive to Utah. and they plan to really make it a thing to be able to get people to travel in different ways, the health, all of that kind of thing. So we've got it's a mandate from UDOT and a mandate from the governor's office. And so for our little project here and through San Juan County, they've been listening. They've been listening to all the regions that want more trails, and they've put it as they combine. So anyway, that was, I thought, great. I don't know if you were at that part, but I was very happy to hear that news. So.
Yeah, the governor spoke when I went to the thing up at the governor's mansion 2 weeks before on that whole thing. Any questions for Lou about that? Any thoughts? I've noticed we've got quite a few people on, and I want to make the announcement that I made earlier so that if folks are here to listen to number 12, discussion and vote on Jim Hook's request to extend 6 West. After a conversation with our attorney, he asked us to take this off the table for tonight. It's temporary, but he has specifically requested we not address this with our discussion. If people, at the very beginning I said this, so if there's anyone on the meeting who wanted to listen to that and we're waiting, or if you wanted to make a public comment and you missed that, I'll give you an opportunity to make a public comment right now, knowing that there won't be any discussion and you might have missed my announcement. So wait a minute and see if anybody jumps on for a public comment. All right, seeing that nobody's raised their hands or said anything, I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the report on PaveRight and the road work. And I don't know, Luann, if you got the message from Michael, but he's having trouble getting onto the meeting, and he asked that you take this part on, if you would.
Sure. So PaveRight was a company that does what we call chip sealing. So you probably noticed, maybe if you've been in town, the road over by the new elementary school is up to grade now so that it can be plowed for emergency access in and out of the school and that kind of thing. That was one of our priorities. And then the road above the community center to keep the community center dust free, and that one got done. And then those couple, Michael has a term for them, but they're the little strips, one next to the Mormon church and then one that goes out of by the old elementary school up 6th all the way up to the end. It serves quite a few houses over there, and there's quite a bit of traffic and a lot of dust. So those all got done, and we're happy with their work, and that's where we're at right now. I don't think we have any other updates. Unless you've got something else that you thought I was going to talk about.
No, when I talked with Michael today, I dropped off some things for him, and he said that he'd had a discussion, Lou, with you about, I don't know, something about one of the roads having not being smoothed out enough. That's not the correct word, and I'm drawing a blank on the word. You know, when you have like ripples in the road.
Yeah, and those will keep
Washboard.
Yeah, washboard is a name, but yeah, those will keep smoothing out. Those were really on a couple of those were developed really quickly after the grading, because we just did grading not too long ago, and they developed quite quickly. And so this chip sealing will help to keep that down, and then it'll be a question of those stop signs at that one intersection at the old school, of whether or not we want you to stop there. Oh, Michael's on. You just missed the update, Michael. But anyway, I think we're good.
Okay, so if Michael is on, I'm just going to ask the question. Michael, today when we talked, did you want a little bit of time to take a look at those roads that have the washboarding, or are you okay with the quality?
Looks like you're muted.
You're
Michael.
muted. You're muted.
Okay, yeah, so I looked at a road today, Mulberry, behind and I can't tell yet if it's just surface gravel on top of the hard surface that's doing it. So I was going to suggest that Luann and I drive around a little, and then I can call up Jude and ask him about it. Pave right. And, get him involved, right?
And just so, Michael and Lou, I haven't had a chance to really touch base with you, but I did send the request for the matching funds to Kelly Pearson at San Juan Transportation Board. I sent that the other day with the proof of the first payment we made of 25,000. So that's moving along. Their next meeting is what, the 14th, Michael?
Yeah, the transportation board meets on the 14th, and right now Kelly is saying that they're not going to, he's going to bring it up at the meeting that it's payable. My feeling is that the grant's been approved, and I think they should issue the check. Personally, I don't know. I have to look at the bylaws to really know for sure.
Yeah, usually the way it worked last time was they, I think, had to approve the actual payment to us at the meeting before they could cut the check. But
Okay.
yes, certainly take a look at it, and if he can be paid sooner, great, once you're assured that the work has been done to your satisfaction.
Yeah. Okay. So, right now we have a time lag of 2 weeks before that money gets into the C Roads fund. So if there's problems, we'll deal with them now.
Thank you. Anything else, Lou or Michael? Any questions for them? Any thoughts?
I just policy-wise am still curious. I always assumed that we would pay and then get reimbursed on things where people were donating or matching grants. I always thought you had to pay the bill and then get the match.
Well, that's not the way it works with the San Juan Transportation Board. Last time when we did it, we sent the proof that we'd paid our half, and then they gave us money that we put into the account.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the reasoning behind that because, that way it ensures that the town has, or the city or municipality has done their part
Right.
in the agreement.
Right. No, I'm not worried about that part. Is just us going ahead and paying the bill and then we get reimbursed. Would speed it up.
I personally, I don't want to, extend that kind of money out there. I would, just play with the C Roads funds. I would be, conservative.
So that's where we're at.
Yep, that's where we are. So Michael I assume you're going to weigh into that meeting on the 14th, and if something changes, you'll let us know.
Yeah, I'll be at the meeting, and if Erin cares to join, I'll arrange to let them know that she'll be there.
We'll be in touch, Michael. I'll let you know.
Okay. Okie doke.
Okay, thank you. Then moving to number 6, reminder of the Unite Us and the meeting with Letitia Goodman. Erin?
So we had an individual reach out to us. Her name is Letitia. She works with Unite Us, which is a software company, which has essentially built a platform to connect different providers throughout the region. So if an individual is in need of assistance, they would not need to contact multiple different entities. They could reach out to one of the providers, and then the provider would be able to reach out to the network to get them connected to services they might need. So this could be like housing or a food bank, or there's a whole wide variety of mental and physical health needs that an individual might need. Unite Us has put together this software that for communities and even counties of our size, there's no cost to us. They have a different cost structure, but they're looking to connect through the network of potential providers in our area. So this is not something that the town would really host, but we are trying to get the right people in the network connected. So Unitas is hosting a informational session on Thursday, November 3rd at 9:30 a.m. They'll have another informational session on Monday, November 14th at 12 p.m. And then they have a rural specific use of the tool demonstration tomorrow at 9 a.m. I have sent this out to a few individuals in the community who I think could benefit from the use of this tool, but it's really kind of at their level as to their bandwidth and how it would be used. Unitas is looking to launch this software in San Juan County this month. Apparently there's been great success with it in like the Moab region and throughout, some other areas in Utah. So I think it's a great tool, but we definitely need to make sure that, it's the network providers who will be best served in using this. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. And I can send you those informational session meeting invites. But again, these service providers are really the ones that we're hoping to connect to.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm glad you're staying on top of that. It sounds like a really cool thing, a clearinghouse.
Yeah, and I think it's a great resource that, it's really exhausting to make a whole bunch of phone calls if you're the person in need. So it is a really wonderful tool. So whatever we can do to connect people to this company, which again, free of cost, is great. And the more people get on board in the county, the easier it'll be, the bigger the network will be.
That's one of the approaches that they've used nationwide in domestic violence, so that somebody getting an order for protection or information doesn't have to make 12 to 15 stops to find housing, daycare, food, application for public assistance. It's been really successful internationally. So I was excited when I sat in on that. It's something that, particularly being this rural where you have to travel, it's nice to have it all in one place. So thanks, Aaron. That's good information.
Fantastic.
Then, if there's nothing else on that, let's move to number 7, report on the status of the Design Review Committee, update on the grants, and the joint checking account. Jim, do you want to start with all this?
Sure. We had a meeting today. You were there, David. Heather was not there. Aaron was listening in. We discussed the bank account. It's a done deal, except that the signatories are apparently not identified, but the machinery necessary to create the account, although it will be complicated, is in place. So it's just moving forward very well. The grants proposals update, the cultural capital grant, we heard from them, and we will not be hearing about awards until later this week or next week, first 2 weeks in November. So they've got a lot of proposals, and so they're working through them. The USDA proposal, thank you, Mayor Lepinen, talked to Charles Larson, and he suggested going with the grant for materials, which I have to look into. I was under the impression it was facilities, but we'll see. There's some, anyway, I'll look more closely at that, but still working on the boilerplate documentation for that. The CCC needs, it was really a wide-ranging conversation. It wasn't very organized, so I'm just trying to plug it into what the agenda says. Recycling was mentioned. We talked about the trailer, that our trailer is out at the mission, and a little bit discussion about cardboard recycling and the playground. We already heard that there are 3+ vendors for playground equipment at the league meeting. We had an unauthorized lock on the fence. I went over there last Friday to get some propane. The propane, Dennis was following me, and when I went to open the gate for the propane guy, I noticed somebody had cut the chain and put another lock on. So there were 2 locks locking the vents, And one of them could be opened by somebody we don't know, and we never did find out who that is. There are a couple of those locks on chains around the playground, on the playground side there, and I think we've gotten rid of them in various ways, but it was quite a deal. And I'm going to just put a bigger chain. The old chain was cut rather easily by a bolt cutter. I've got a chain that isn't going to get cut by a bolt cutter. So anyway, that's in progress. And Heather's had some security issues, she thinks, but since her office is locked by the same key that they have and we all have, you know, it would have to be somebody who had a key or a copy to the key. And so I'm not sure that anybody's too worried about it yet. There are no trail cameras up. So we may get those two locks on the portable rekeyed. And if we can, and that way Heather would have her own key, not the same as the one that goes to the school. What else did you want to hear about here? The joint checking account, that pretty much covers all of it, I think. USDA and the cultural capital. Are there any questions? Did I miss anything? I'm sure I did.
Luann?
Yeah, I just have sort of a logistics question. How does propane get into Phil?
They don't have Dennis does not have a key, and it was just by happenstance. I've been calling him. I've talked to him a couple of times, and on Friday I gave him a call, and he was actually on his way back from Monument Valley, and he said he could do it right then. So I said, let's do it. So it was topped up, but he does not have a key to the propane tank, and sounds like a lot of other people do, but he doesn't. So
Okay.
that's too bad.
I thought maybe they'd put a lock on just so they, they like our
No.
access down to the power guys. They've got just a daisy chain kind of lock system so that different people can get in that need to get in. But if it wasn't that, I don't know.
No, we thought somebody would know more about it, but the deputy actually came down, and it was quite a small town crime scene there for a little while. No crime scene tape, but people were interviewed, interrogated. Nobody's hauled off, but came close.
I just want to follow up on that. I waited to call it in until I talked with Dave Conine, and he confirmed with UDB that none of them had added the locks. They were unaware of it. So I called in to the county to file a report. That was before I knew that Heather Atteen thought somebody gone through her office. It was before I was sure that the chain had been cut. And so on his own, the deputy then proceeded, after talking with me and Dave Conine, then he proceeded to interview someone at the propane office. I don't know who he talked with. He then contacted James Reenan with the school district to talk to him. So they did do some follow-up after the initial contact, which basically was that the deputy didn't feel that there was anything to really do because it was a communication issue. But once UDB also said that they had not done it, then he appeared to take it a little more in depth. So thanks, Jim, for noticing it. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Thank you.
I have,
Go ahead.
okay, thanks. So I have been working with the checking account. I've called Polaris, and they will be able to add a third checking account to our program. I've called David Sanderson. I called Zion first to find out what kind of checking account we should use. Should we use business or what? And Rochelle checked with the people above her, and none of them really knew. So I talked to Dave Sanderson. I asked Dave Sanderson, who's our accountant. He said we need I believe it's called I had planned to look this up, the name up again, a public analytical checking account, something along that. The name is kind of close to that. So I called Rochelle back at Zions, and she was able to get me a list of what we need in order to open this account. And it's pretty extensive and complicated. And I don't know, I know I have to do a lot. I don't know if Danae Bakea also has to do a lot, then it's going to take a while. So my next step, while I am getting these documents together, I'm going to be calling Larson, our auditor, and talk to him about, so I can know more about this kind of checking account, how it works, that kind of thing. So we're actually, I believe, a ways away from this happening.
Yeah, I figured, but at least it's there are no big roadblocks right now. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, I'm sure, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know what mechanisms are in place for a public-private partnership like this, but I'm sure they exist in the state. So you'll find a path, I'm sure. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we did finally get the signature, the initial document signed with both parties so that we can go to Zions and get an account. So that's the first step.
Yep.
the name of the account is the Public Funds Analyzed Checking.
Okay.
And so that's what Linda will be doing, setting that up. Well, thanks. I think it's taken us 8 months to get this thing executed. So maybe it'll be faster to get this done, even though it's a lot of work.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, Linda, you may want to check when you're talking to Larson. In the interim, if we do receive that grant, I mean, I know it's optimistic of me, but if we do get this in the next couple of weeks, what should we do with it and how would it be dispersed? Because, I mean, I think we'll have till July or August of next year to spend it. So it needs to go somewhere.
Good idea. Thanks.
And we have that one private donation that's just sitting because we have nowhere to put it. So
Yeah, you can talk to him about that too. Where can we stash this money?
well, we'll just move on then to the next thing, which is the October 18th and 20th pre-disaster mitigation plan that Linda and I went to with Aaron. So this is fitting into San Juan County's 5-year plan for pre-disaster mitigation. And pretty much we have to identify areas of potential hazard. We did some rating of those areas. And then we will submit some forms with more information on each hazard. And, one of them was the Cow Canyon, if there's a flood or rock fall, how does that get mitigated? What could affect possibly the position of where the arsenic plant is? There are quite a few different things that people threw out. And so in working with San Juan County, we'll submit a draft of what we think is the most important and identify some assets that need protecting. Another one was the community center, where the back of it, if you're looking up toward, Black Locust, there's a pretty steep bank there. If you get a heavy rain or 100-year flood and it comes down off Cemetery Hill into the community center, it's possible we could end up flooding what is right now our town offices. So it was good. I appreciated the consultant. He had a lot of information. Tammy Gallegos was amazing. And what I found interesting was that Linda, the town of Bluff was the only community in San Juan County, the only entity, the only city, the only town, the only unincorporated area that actually followed up into the second stage of identifying our possible areas. Blanding, Monticello, LaSalle, they didn't even jump into the meeting. There were some tribal chairmans on, but I mean, it was, we were it with the tribes, and they're just going to let San Juan County identify what they have, I guess. Linda, Aaron, do you want to add to that?
Going to the meeting was really helpful because we were able to do the first phase of the program to fill out that paperwork. And so I think that helped us understand it a lot better.
The only other comment I would make is that when they hosted the meeting on the 18th, Luann Hook was also in attendance. So we actually had a pretty good showing from Bluff when they hosted those community meetings in other other cities. They didn't have quite as much turnout. So throughout the process, we've had good representation. And I do think it's important to recognize that our risks and our hazards are different from other areas in the county. So I appreciate, everyone who's stepped up. We also got emails from residents after the last meeting where they had ideas, and rest assured those have been incorporated as well.
Landing had, I think, 2 people or 3 people at their public meeting, which was on the 18th, and the second stage was the 20th. So, yeah, it's interesting, but I hopefully will be able to get these forms a little more organized and filled out and submitted this week, and then show everybody what we're working on. Any other thoughts, questions? All right, moving to number 9, update on the local homeless coalition meeting on October 18th. It was a pretty short meeting, nothing really coming out of this one. We talked a little bit about the point in time study. This year it will be maybe smoother than it was the first year. The second year, Joe Hubbard and I did the count, and hopefully San Juan County will actually be able to do a little bit more of the work throughout the county. This is what our funding is based in part on for certain services, so it's important to get this point in time count as accurately as possible. But they'll be rolling out again the app that you can use for it, and not everybody used that, so there were some counts that were done that weren't included. So I think that San Juan County is getting, for this next time we'll get up to speed. I think the date, and I don't anybody hold me to this, I think the date is like the January 27th, but I'll notify everybody, and then maybe we can get a few other bodies out there to help in San Juan County and do that count of who might be unsheltered after midnight on that particular day. Any questions or thoughts on that? Then moving to number 10, update on the CDBG grant. I'll let Aaron handle that one.
Right, so I just wanted to put this on the agenda in case folks had seen our notice in the San Juan Record as well as the notice on the website. We had placed the project of the community center rehabilitation and ADA improvements project out to bid, and the intention was to have this as like a design build, where essentially the same company would come in, analyze everything to be done, and then work on the construction. Unfortunately, we were notified by CBDG 6 weeks after the bid was placed that this was not the process that we needed to follow. We will be working with them to identify the appropriate process moving forward. My understanding at this time is that we will place one bid for architect engineering, And in that, they will help us construct the appropriate bid documents for then the construction phase. I am attending an in-person meeting, so I get to meet all of the wonderful folks from CBDG tomorrow in Moab. And so I hope to have more information after I speak with them in person. But I did want to let folks know in case, they saw those notices and were concerned as to why the cancellation notice was posted. Are there any questions from the council?
No, thank you for your patience working with CDBG, though.
My favorite topic.
Oh, boy.
I would just like to say that when Jim went to the CDBG workshop and he came back with the 2 books and stressed this was going to be a lot of work, it was very different than working on the water study. And a number of processes had changed from the one we did in 2019 to 2022. It also appears to me, from having sat in or reviewed every step of the way that Erin was doing, and she was reviewing with CDBG, that she did everything correctly according to the book that they gave us. So I'm not pointing fingers at CDBG. I'm just saying that when they had the 6 weeks to review it, and Erin was working with them on every single step and reading the book on every single step, I'm not sure what went wrong. And Erin has put a lot of work into it, and it's now all going to be repeated in one form or another. So I really appreciate it, Erin. I would have not reacted as calmly, and I would have probably put the books in the trash and moved on out and skipped 2023 training. So thank you very much for going ahead with this. Yes. Yeah, the size of the books, and there's a checklist. She followed it. So stay tuned. We do have some interested companies, and I think that we'll have a solid bid or 2 or whatever we need. But Erin,
Great.
thank you. Erin just earned your entire salary for a year in that week.
Everybody, appreciate it.
All right, moving to number 11, discussion and vote on the Bluff Forts Heritage Day request. Just to kind of outline how this moved forward, was back in 2018 when we incorporated, there was a request by the Bluff Fort to do Founders Day and have it on Founders Day, pick it up where things had kind of been with a parade and some games and some activities at the fort. And at the time, we declined to do that. We were too new. We had just incorporated, no resources. So it's pretty much sat and nothing had moved on it. And then a couple of weeks ago, 2 representatives from the fort came over and met with me and renewed the request in a slightly different view, which would be to have the town take on Heritage Day, call it Heritage Day, have it on a day at any point in the calendar year, and have it be a celebration with a perhaps parade and fireworks, food, have it to celebrate all the uniqueness within Bluff. And before we get into any discussion on this, they also brought with them a folder with various newspaper clippings, which I looked at, and a couple of people who've inquired, I've directed them to talk to the fort and read the paper. One of the things going through this history piece is I want to remind everybody that we have on multiple occasions had requests that we have not undertaken because of the lack of infrastructure. One that comes to mind immediately is Joe Paycheck's sculpture. That last year that he did it, we had declined to be the moving party to arrange the police issues to make sure the traffic flowed, nobody got run over. And we've also done it with the Women's March. That's been independent of the town. That's been privately done. So with that, I'm going to throw it open for discussion.
I think for the same reasons that we mentioned before, it's or that you just mentioned, is that the lack of infrastructure. We're kind of getting into initiative gridlock here. You know, lots of initiatives lately, things that are going forward that are going to take a lot more work going forward. So for that reason, and I think there are other reasons as well, having to do with controversy that may exist surrounding the word heritage, and other issues that might arise in this from this as well. So I would decline. I would not I would not want to participate as a town in this. Thank you.
Grant, go ahead.
I feel the same way Jim does, Mayor. We're not ready, infrastructure wise to handle a big event. And I would want, if we decided to do a town event, I'd want more of a far reaching idea with some interest groups and stuff. So maybe down the road in 5 years, but not right now from my point of view.
Any other comment?
The only comment I'd have is, when I thought about it and talked with a few people about it, is, you know, I'm not a big event person. Event after event, it's more of a small town, you know, a few people at a time instead of the hundreds. But I thought it might tie in to maybe the arts festival. There could a combination there that maybe they would be interested in jointly doing or something. So.
One of the thoughts that I'd had was, in addition to lacking the infrastructure and the fact that we've declined other groups or interested people from organizing something like that, where, you know, the town sponsors a parade and fireworks, etc. The other piece of it is that, okay, you can tell it's getting late. I just lost my train of thought. Let me think for a second.
Probably liability, Mayor.
It could be that, but I don't think that. Oh, I know. Looking at Aaron reminded me that there is a group of people who've gotten together to form an umbrella over the various activities like the Arts Festival, the Balloon Festival, the whatever, and kind of taking that on as with a hired manager person to manage events. And that might be a good place to redirect this for them to consider. But at this point, I just think back to that last solstice burn with all the traffic and the cars and the dark and the dogs. And I just, yeah, it's probably liability in part for me, but in part it's just we've got a lot of government yet to set up. And I don't feel that we've got the energy level or width right now to take something like that on. So it sounds like there's no consensus. So with that, let's move to the financial report. Linda?
We have two bills. Ginny Burns has asked for a second transfer of money from her pass-through grant for the food pantry. She has been working with Anne and given her receipts for the first $2,500 and would like us to give her the next $2,500. The total is $10,000. So that's the first item. The second one has to do with paying PaveRight the $12,500, and it sounds like right now we're going to be waiting for Michael to give his final approval, although I guess we could vote, and then when he does give us his final approval, do it. So those are the two things that we need to vote on.
No, I told Drew Daly of PaveRight today that he would be getting a check for 12,500 tomorrow. And and that was based on conversations I had. So we're going to have to write that check. The holdback is the final payment, right? The 37,500 from the transportation board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so let me just, Michael and I went back and forth a little bit today. With the 25,000 and the 1250, that would, or 12,500, that would be our share of the 37.5. And Michael feels that the 37.5 has been more than covered. So we can vote to pay PaveRight our share. We have to wait for the transportation board to approve and transfer the other 37,500. But does that sound right, Michael, that you're satisfied at the 37.5?
Yeah, I mean, it's half of the total cost. So I think, we don't have any risk at this point. And, we're going to check the roads and then I'll let everybody know, how it stands.
Brant?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to go ahead and pay both of those, the pass through to the food pantry and this 12,500. Go ahead and pay those now.
Second,
Who seconded? Was it Lou?
that was me, Jim.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further discussion, then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Moving to other. Aaron, did you have an other?
I did have an other. So as a reminder, all elected and appointed officials do need to take Open and Public Meetings Act and GRAMA training annually. So we are just rounding the corner for our annual here. So if you need me to send links as to how you access that, please let me know. And then as your administrator, let me know when that has been completed, and so we can track it. So again, Open and Public Meetings Act and GRAMA training. Any questions?
Aaron, this is Brant. Please send my links for that.
You got it, Brant. I will get those
Me
right to
too.
you.
Me too.
Yep.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Me too, please.
Thank you all. Yeah, I'll get those to you tomorrow morning.
Two of us have taken it for this year. And so what we've done in the past is people have sent me their certificates, but they could also send them to you. It
Yeah,
doesn't,
we can transfer that over. I will happily take that one off your plate, Linda. Perfect. And then we'll have that reminder again next year. But yeah, just let me know when you get it done. Thank you all.
Yeah, so, we did them whatever the year span is. I don't know if I did it in this year or last year on the calendar year or fiscal year or whatever, but if we need them, send them.
Will do. Thank you.
Anybody have another other?
I do. Just a quick follow-up. There have been quite a few more people joining on the, I just want to reiterate the Arundo eradication in town. And the biggest problem, I'm concerned of the river bottom, but the biggest problem is the fire hazard. And a couple people are more than willing to get rid of it because of the fire hazard to their neighbors and the extra stress to the fire department if it catches on fire. So that's the big reason to get rid of it, other than the escaping noxious weed. That's it. Thank you.
Luann, that's a good call out. We had put some resources the last time this kind of came up earlier this year on the website under resident resources, but I'll do a link and kind of up on the website, the homepage, since this is a pressing matter in the next few weeks.
Yep. And again, it's November 21st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving.
Any
You have
other?
your hand up, Brant?
I was going to say, please call a friend and have them vote. Voting is really central to democracy. So I'm just encouraging anybody to vote. Thanks.
Thanks for that reminder. It is 7:08,
Motion to adjourn.
actually 7:09. Is there a
I'll-
second? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you all. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Good night. Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Kurt.